God told one man to build a boat. Not near the ocean. Not by a river. In his backyard. On dry land. A boat bigger than anything the world had ever seen. Everyone laughed. But Noah believed. This is his story.
#Noah's Ark. The man who built a boat in his backyard. A modern retelling. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever been asked to do something that made absolutely zero sense. Maybe your mum asked you to clean your room when you were just about to beat the final boss in your game. Maybe your teacher gave you homework on a Friday. Maybe your dad said, "Trust me, this shortcut is faster," and then you were lost for an hour. Well, buckle up, friends, because today's Bible story is about a man who got the wildest assignment in human history. God told him to build a boat the size of a shopping centre in his backyard, with no water anywhere in sight. His neighbours thought he'd completely lost the plot, but Noah wasn't crazy. He'd heard from God, and he chose to trust. The world goes wrong. Let's rewind to the very beginning. Remember how God created everything? The sky, the sea, the animals, the people? He looked at it all and said, "This is good." He loved it so much. But as time went on, things went seriously downhill. People forgot about God. They stopped being kind. They stopped being fair. They lied, they cheated, they hurt each other. Not just occasionally, but all the time. The Bible says that every thought in people's hearts was only evil. Every single one. Imagine scrolling through everyone's thoughts like a social media feed, and every single post is horrible. That's how bad it was. And you know what? It broke God's heart. Imagine spending ages building the most incredible Lego creation you've ever made. Every piece perfect, every detail just right, and then watching someone smash it to pieces. That ache? God felt that, times infinity. God is holy and just. He can't just ignore evil forever. So he decided to send a great flood to wash the earth clean and start again. But even in all that darkness, God's grace was shining on one man. Meet Noah. The Bible says something beautiful. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Did you catch that? Before Noah built anything, before he lifted a single hammer, God looked at Noah with grace, with favour, with kindness. It's like being picked first for the team before the game even starts. Not because you're perfect, but because someone sees something in you. Noah wasn't perfect. No human is. But Noah was different. In a world where everyone was doing wrong, Noah chose to do right. He loved God. He walked with God. He listened to God. Think about it. Imagine if your entire school decided to cheat on a test, but you said, "Nope, I'm doing this honestly." Even when everyone laughed, even when they called you names, even when you felt completely alone. That was Noah. And God noticed. The most bonkers DIY project ever. One day, God spoke to Noah. "Noah, I'm going to send a flood to cover the earth, but I'm going to save you and your family. Here's what I need you to do." And then God dropped the instructions. And they were a lot. Build an ark, a boat, a massive boat, not by the beach, not near a river, right in Noah's backyard, where the closest thing to water was probably a puddle. God gave exact measurements. 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. How big is that? About 140 metres long. That's longer than a football field. Taller than a 4-storey building. You could fit hundreds of double-decker buses inside this thing. God also said, put a roof on it, build 3 decks, cover it with tar so it's waterproof. Oh, and Noah, you're going to bring 2 of every kind of animal on board, plus enough food for all of them, for a year. Can you imagine? Lions living next door to zebras? Elephants sharing a hallway with mice? That's like putting your cat and your hamster in the same room and hoping for the best. But here's what makes Noah absolutely remarkable. The Bible says, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Everything. Not most things, not the bits that made sense. Everything. Every measurement, every detail. Complete obedience. He didn't argue. He didn't ask for a sign. He didn't say, "But God, have you seen the weather forecast? There's not a cloud in the sky." He simply trusted and obeyed. The longest DIY project in history. Now here's the thing. Building this ark wasn't a weekend project. It took years. Some people think it might have taken decades. Day after day, week after week, year after year. Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham and Japheth, cutting wood, hammering planks, waterproofing everything with sticky, smelly tar. No power tools, no YouTube tutorials, no how to build a giant boat search results. Just faith, hard work, and a really, really long to-do list. And the whole time, people watched, and they laughed. A lot. Hey Noah, nice boat. Where's the water? A flood? Mate, it hasn't rained in weeks. You've been at this for 10 years. When exactly is this flood supposed to show up? Can you imagine how hard that must have been? Every single day being mocked, being called crazy, having people roll their eyes every time they walked past. But the Bible tells us something else about Noah, something epic. In 2 Peter, he's called a preacher of righteousness. That means Noah wasn't just building, he was also warning people. He told them about God. He told them judgment was coming. He gave them chance after chance to turn back. But they didn't listen. They just kept laughing. And still, Noah kept building. He kept trusting. He kept obeying. Not because he could see the flood coming, but because he knew the God who had spoken to him. That, friends, is called faith. 2 by 2. Finally, after all those years, the ark was complete. And then, something absolutely wild happened. Animals started showing up. From every direction, lions padding through the grass, elephants trumpeting in the distance, giraffes awkwardly ducking under trees, birds filling the sky, snakes slithering along the ground. Noah didn't have to go on some epic safari to round them up. God brought them right to his doorstep. 2 by 2 they came, male and female, every kind of creature. For some special animals called clean animals, God said bring 7 pairs. These would be used later for sacrifices and food. It must have looked like the world's most chaotic zoo parade. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons and their 3 wives, 8 people in total, walked into the ark along with all those animals and all that food. And then, the Bible tells us something remarkable. God himself shut the door. Click. Not Noah, God. God sealed them in. God would protect them. And then, they waited. The storm. For 7 days, absolutely nothing happened. 7 days sitting inside a giant wooden boat, surrounded by animals, waiting. Can you imagine what the neighbours were saying now? See, I told you, nothing's happening. What a waste of time. And then, the sky turned dark. Boom! Thunder cracked like an explosion. Lightning ripped across the sky. The clouds tore open and rain began to fall. Not a drizzle, not a shower. A waterfall from the sky. But that wasn't all. The Bible says the springs of the great deep burst open. Water came shooting up from the ground, from everywhere. The puddles became streams, the streams became rivers, the rivers became oceans, and the water rose higher, and higher, and higher. For 40 days and 40 nights, the rain poured down. The water covered the hills, then the mountains. Everything that breathed on dry land was gone. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? Sin is serious to God. There are real consequences when we turn away from him. But inside that ark, safe and sound, Noah, his family, and all those animals, floating above the flood, protected by God's grace. The longest boat trip ever. Now, being inside that ark was not a luxury cruise. Think about it, stuck on a floating wooden zoo for almost a year. The sounds, the smells. Imagine the worst thing you've ever smelled, and then multiply it by about 1,000 animals. No Wi-Fi, no Netflix, no escaping to your room. Just you, your family, and a lot of animal poop to shovel. But Noah waited patiently. The floodwaters covered the earth for 150 days. That's about 5 months. But here's something beautiful. The Bible says, God remembered Noah. Not that God had forgotten him, never. But God was watching over him, caring for him. And at just the right time, God sent a wind over the earth, and the waters began to go down. The ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah opened a window and sent out a raven. It flew back and forth, finding no place to land. Then he sent out a dove. The first time the dove came back, nowhere to rest. 7 days later, Noah sent the dove out again. This time it came back with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Plants were growing, the earth was coming back to life. 7 days more, and Noah sent the dove out once more. This time, it didn't come back. It had found a home, a brand new start. Finally, God spoke. "Come out of the ark, Noah, you, your family, and all the animals. Fill the earth once again." Can you imagine that moment? The doors swing open. Sunlight, actual, real, warm sunlight, floods in for the first time in over a year. Fresh air fills their lungs. Noah steps onto dry ground. The animals burst out. Lions stretching their legs, birds soaring into the sky, rabbits bouncing off in every direction. It must have been absolute chaos, but the best kind of chaos. And what was the very first thing Noah did? He built an altar, and he worshipped God. After everything, the decades of building, the endless mocking, the terrifying storm, the long wait, Noah's first response wasn't to take a nap, or throw a party, or finally get some peace and quiet. His first response was to say, "Thank you" to God. And God was pleased. God made a covenant, a solemn, unbreakable promise with Noah. He said, "Never again will I destroy the earth with a flood, and here is the sign of my promise." God painted a rainbow across the sky. Every rainbow you see, every beautiful arc of colour stretching across the sky after a storm, is God saying, "I remember my promise. I am faithful. You can trust me." So what's the point of this epic story? Here's the thing, friends. Noah wasn't a superhero. He didn't have special powers or a secret advantage. He was an ordinary person who received extraordinary grace and chose to trust God completely. He trusted when it made absolutely no sense. He obeyed when everyone laughed in his face. He waited when it felt like nothing was happening. And he worshipped when it was all over. We face choices like that too. Maybe everyone at school is doing something you know is wrong, but you choose to do right, even if you're the only one. Maybe God is asking you to be patient about something, and the waiting feels endless. Maybe you feel totally alone because you're trying to follow God when nobody else seems to care. That's your build the ark moment. You don't need to see the rainbow to start trusting. You just need to know that the God who spoke to Noah is the same God who loves you, and he keeps every single promise. Noah stood faithful for years, and because he did, his whole family was saved. A whole new world began, all because one man chose to trust God when nobody else would. So when it's hard to do the right thing, when people make fun of you, when you can't see how it's all going to work out, keep trusting, keep obeying, keep worshipping. Because the God who shut the door of the ark, the God who remembered Noah, the God who painted the rainbow and keeps every promise, he's the same God who is with you right now. And one day, you'll look up and see your rainbow too. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, and Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Genesis 6:8-22. The end.